I'm Angie, and welcome to another video. So for today's video, I'm going to show you my presentation in for the summary of chapter 6 in NetAcad. So at first, before we proceed to my presentation, I'm going to show you my NetAcad. So we're going to open it. So we need to launch course. Then wait until it loads. Then chapter 6 is entitled Network Layer. So for the introduction, here is the introduction for chapter 6, Network Layer. Network applications and services on one end device can communicate with applications and services running on another end device. So the question is, how is this data communicated across the network in an efficient way? The protocols of the OSI model network layer specify addressing and processes that enable transport layer data to be packaged and transported. The network layer encapsulation enables data to be passed to a destination within a network or on another network with minimum overhead. So for the overall summary of this introduction, this chapter focuses on the role of the network layer. So we are going to examine how it divides network into groups of hosts so that we can manage the flow of data packets within a network. This chapter also covers how communication between networks is facilitated. This communication between networks is called routing. So, the communication between, this means that the communication between all networks is called routing. So, for my presentation, I'm going to open my PowerPoint. Chapter 6. So, this chapter began with a look at the external features of a Cisco 2500 series router. This included an overview of each port, including its numbering, physical connectors, and characteristics. An overview of the router's Ethernet port provided insight into AUI connections, transceivers, and their purpose. Then, after this, a closer look at router's serial ports included an explanation of synchronous communications, DTE and DCE devices, and the physical layer communications standards that are used to connect between these devices. A basic introduction to CSU or DSUs provided insight into its role in the WAN communication process. which means that the purpose of both the asynchronous console and auxiliary ports was looked at next. So after that, the asynchronous console and auxiliary ports was being examined, including the ways in which these ports are connected to devices using rollover cables and adapters. So the pinouts for a rollover cable were also looked at in order to allow you to create your own as necessary. A review of the router's LED lights provided insight into the types of information that that this provides. Then, a look at a router's internal elements focused on the four main memory storage areas used on Cisco routers, including flash, RAM, ROM, and NVRAM. Then, when the information is being processed in the flash, RAM, ROM, and NVRAM, so the information contained within within this is within this storage was being examined, as were their associated characteristics. Then, an overview of the Cisco iOS provided insight into features, sets, and the different types of iOS releases provided by Cisco. The ability to distinguish a major release from an early deployment release was discussed, as were the purposes of maintenance and general deployment releases. So I'm going to tackle you the network layer. Addressing end devices. The network layer addresses end devices. It must be configured with a unique IP address for identification on the network. Encapsulation is the network layer encapsulates the protocol data unit, or the PDU, from the transport layer into a packet. Routing is the network layer provides services to direct packets to a destination host on another network to travel to other networks. The packet must be processed by a router. So, routing is the network layer provides services to direct packets to a destination host on another network. So, the the destination host comes from the packets to another network to travel to other networks. The packet must be processed by a router. So, the router is the one who processes the packets. The encapsulation is when the packet arrives at the network layer of the destination host. The host checks the IP header of the packet. Host forwarding decision itself is a host can ping itself by sending a packet to a special IPv4 address of 127.0.0.1, which is referred to as the loopback interface. Pinging the loopback interface tests the TCP or IP protocol stack on the host. Local host is a host on the same local network as the sending host. The hosts share the same network address. So the host is the one who is sharing the host with the same network address. So remote host is a host on a remote network. The hosts do not share the same network address. So it is the contradict of local host. Then host routing tables. Interface list is the media access control or the MAC address and assigned interface number of every network capable interface on the host, including Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth adapters. Remote routers come from remote networks connected to other routers. Routes to these networks can be manually configured on the local router by the network administrator or dynamically configured by enabling the local router to exchange routing information with other routers using a dynamic routing protocol. Default route is like a host. Routers also use a default route as a last resort if there is no other route to the desired network in the routing table. Then IPv4 route table is the list all known IPv4 routes, including direct connections, local network, local default routes, and the IPv6 route table is the list all known IPv6 routes, including direct connections, local network, and local default routes. Router packet forwarding decision. Directly connected routes come from the active router interfaces. Routers add a directly connected route when an interface is configured with an IP address and is activated. Then the next one is a router is a computer. Branch is the teleworkers, small businesses, and medium-sized branch sites. Include Cisco Integrated Services Routers are also ISR G2 or the second generation. One is a large businesses, organizations, and enterprises. Includes the Cisco Catalyst series switches and the Cisco Aggregation Services Routers are also known as ASR. Service provider is a large service providers. Includes Cisco ASR or the Aggregation Services Routers, Cisco CRS, three carrier routing system, and 7600 series routers. LAN and WAN interfaces. Console is a physical management port that provides out-of-band access to a Cisco device. Out-of-band access refers to access via a dedicated management channel that is used for device maintenance purposes only. Secure Shell or the SSH is a method for remotely establishing a secure CLI connection through a virtual interface over a network. Unlike a console connection, SSH connections require active networking services on the device, including an active interface configured with an address. And lastly, telnet is an insecure method of remotely establishing a CLI session through a virtual interface over a network. Unlike SSH, telnet does not provide a securely encrypted connection. User authentication, passwords, and commands are sent over the network in plain text. So, this is my summary for Chapter 6 Network Layer. Thank you for watching and see you on my next video. Thank you!